Your glasses are a huge part of your everyday style, but they're also the window through which you see the world, and that's why getting the best vision possible should always be the priority when you get new glasses. So in today's video, I'm going to help you to understand your prescription, understand exactly how that translates into your glasses, and a huge mistake that you might be making that compromises your vision. So hi, I'm Robert, Style and Vision Consultant here at the Spectacle Factory. And it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. And it all starts with your eye test. So let's get into what the results of your eye test mean. Well, it starts with the sphere power, or SPH for short. And that is a measure of how long or short-sighted you are. So that can be more plus, which means long-sighted, or it can be more minus, which means more short-sighted. And one of the biggest challenges when changing somebody's prescription is actually not going too far either way in either direction, but especially not going too far towards plus. And that's because people will tend to tolerate going more minus, but tend to be more sensitive to more plus, and it can give the impression, the effect that things are blurry. Even if technically they aren't, even if technically that is the right prescription for you, a lot of people are sensitive to that element of your prescription being too strong. Then you have the CIL, or CYL. This is a measure of something called astigmatism. Now, most of the population have astigmatism, but some people more than others. And that's basically a measure of how asymmetrical your eyes are. So someone with a spherical prescription where there's no CIL would have an almost uniformly round eye. When it comes to astigmatism, that means that part of the eye is slightly misshaped, like a football or a rugby ball, as we say in the UK. And that basically means that you're not short or long-sighted. It is something that is a little bit more intangible. It's difficult to explain, but you'll know you've got astigmatism if you drive at night and you see headlights or tail lights or street lights where there's kind of like a tail to them. That's caused by the focus of that light not being even through your eye, so it kind of spreads out. And if you've got a CIL on your prescription, you'll also have an axis. The axis is simply the rotation of the asymmetry of the eye. So if your astigmatism is kind of pointing this way, your axis will be like, what's that? Like 80? Now, all prescriptions will have at least the sphere and probably will have the CIL in the axis as well. Some prescriptions will then have an add, which is an extra magnification added to your prescription for close-up reading. And this will start to take effect when you're in your kind of 30s and 40s. In rare cases, you might even see prism on your prescription. Prism is when the two eyes, when they look at an object, don't quite focus in the same point. So usually it's to do with the muscle imbalance between the eyes, and prism corrects that. So prism can be any amount, but it can be in any direction as well. It can be up, down, left or right, or in and out, as we say. The idea of that is the prism within the lenses just lines the eyes up perfectly so that you don't get double vision. If you've ever heard of double vision, that's why people get it, and that's because they need prism. So that's a basic overview of how a prescription works. Sounds simple, right? Well, not so much, because when an optician is measuring all of these values, they're asking you for your opinion. They're saying 1 or 2, 1 or 2, and you're telling them which one you perceive as being best. Now, there are good reasons why we do eye testing that way. Vision is psychological. We see with our brain and not with our eyes. And any optician who's worked for more than a week will tell you that they can do a perfect job and they will give you the prescription that theoretically is right for you, but you can perceive it as being wrong. That's sometimes the challenge of being an optician, because people tend to tolerate incremental steps rather than big changes. Because eye testing is done subjectively, that also leaves margin for error. And studies have shown that the repeatability of a subjective eye test is plus or minus 0.75 across all of those values that I discussed, which is significant, and it literally is significant because the tolerance, the margin for error, is only 0.5. If the accuracy of a subjective test is worse than the margin for error, this leads to either you not getting on with your glasses, or, as most people experience, just not seeing the best that they possibly can. And that's why the most state-of-the-art equipment for eye testing is the Zeiss Eye Profiler. The Eye Profiler will actually take an objective measurement of your vision. So this will literally tell us exactly what your prescription is. And it's based on actually different lighting conditions as well, because as the eyes change and adjust to different light, the focus of your eye actually changes. It's also not based on a single measurement, but a series of hundreds of individual measurements across the surface of your eye. Now, this is very, very advanced, and it's hard to find equipment like that, but it does exist. I wish it was more ubiquitous, and only by the public becoming more aware of it and asking their optician for it, is it going to become the standard. This is one of the reasons why people fly to us from all over the world. I'm not saying we're the only one with the equipment. There's plenty of other opticians that do have it, but people will literally fly from a different continent to come and be measured with the Eye Profiler. But the Eye Profiler by itself is not magic. Yes, we can measure the exact focus of your eye. And yes, we can give you that focus and correct your eyes theoretically the best possible. But remember I said vision is psychological and we see with our brain. If you actually give most people their true prescription, they won't tolerate it. They will say that they can't see properly. It just takes too long and it's too much work for the brain to adjust to that new prescription. So current best practice is to run both sets of results through an algorithm, taking the subjective element that you're happy with and the objective measurement that in theory is correct, and using that to fine-tune the optician's prescription to reduce that margin for error. And that is something called an eye-scription, 25 times more accurate than a standard eye test. Except it's not that simple either, because once you've got that perfect theoretical prescription, you then choose a pair of glasses. And here's the thing, every pair of glasses you try on will hold the lenses in front of your eyes in a different way. And that's where there are 5 key measurements that compensate for those differences in alignment. Now we use the Zeiss VisuFit 1000 to take these measurements, and that is, to my knowledge, the most accurate system in the world. So what are they? Well, first you've got the back vertex distance. I would say this is probably the most crucial. This is the distance between your eye and the lens. So every pair of glasses you try on will actually hold the lenses either further forward or nearer. Just try to think about using the camera on your phone. If you're focusing on an object and you move it forward or back, that will actually change the clarity of what you're seeing. And the same is true with your spectacle lenses. So the back vertex distance specifically will affect the sphere value that we talked about in your prescription. Let's say that you're a +2. Wearing your glasses a few millimeters further away might adjust that to +2.1 as an example. These are small incremental values, but if you're trying to get the best vision possible, the best clarity you can get, they are crucial, because that slight adjustment might be the difference between you being able to see something clearly, but being able to see it just a little bit more clearly and being able to make out details that you would have missed otherwise. That's only one measurement, the back vertex distance. The second one is the pantoscopic tilt. Now this is the angle of the glasses to your face. So glasses can be either flatter or more tilted. The first thing is it affects the sill of your prescription, so it affects the astigmatism. Because you're then taking this flat lens and putting an angle on it, it's effectively making the focus through the lens asymmetrical. So we need to compensate that by adjusting the sill value of your prescription. The second thing that it affects is your ad value, because if you're a progressive or varifocal lens wearer, the bottom of your glasses is set for reading. And if you think about it, that zone at the bottom is going to be closer to your eye or further away, depending on the pantoscopic tilt. So that's going to adjust the ad power in your prescription as well. Finally, you've got the bow or the wrap angle, which is the curvature of your glasses. Some frames are more flat, some frames are more curved and sporty, and that will also affect the sill and the axis values of your prescription. Finally, the horizontal, also known as PD, or vertical, also known as height, position of your eye within the glasses is absolutely crucial. Spectacle lenses have a sweet spot, and you want that sweet spot to be positioned in front of your eye. Especially the more advanced the lenses are, the more critical it is that that sweet spot is lined up with your eye, because so many calculations are done around that area that if you move that by a millimeter, it's going to throw all of the calculations off. And this also has a huge effect on the prism in your prescription if you do wear prism. There's kind of no point having prism in your prescription if the lenses aren't aligned perfectly with your eyes, because remember what I said, prism is for aligning the eyes with the target. And actually, if you don't have those measurements taken and they're not done well, you might be inducing prism in your prescription even if you don't need it, meaning the eyes don't actually focus on the same spot. That's actually, I would say, one of the most common reasons why someone might have a problem with a pair of glasses. So, in conclusion, if you get the best subjective prescription possible with an experienced optician, combine that with an objective measurement from the eye profiler, create an eye scription based on those 2 results, and then have your glasses measured using equipment like the VisuFit 1000 to compensate for how you wear them. And assuming, by the way, and we have lots of videos on this topic, you get the best lenses in your glasses, which are sophisticated enough to take into account all of these values, you will get the best vision possible. And trust me when I say this, when you see the best you can, it is a life-changing moment. If you don't believe me, check out this video that I'm going to put up here somewhere, where you can see a real-world client who visited us from America, had all of that process that I've just described done, and saw in a completely new way. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, give us a like and subscribe to this channel for more of the best eyewear content on the internet. And if you know someone who's struggling with their vision or just wants to improve it, share this video. You owe it to them to educate them.